Coronavirus pandemic is an ongoing global pandemic of coronavirus disease 2019. The virus was first identified from an outbreak in Wuhan, China. Attempts to contain it there failed, allowing the virus to spread to other areas of China and later worldwide. The World Health Organization declared the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern on 30th January 2020 and a pandemic on 11th March 2020. As of 30th September 2022, the pandemic has recorded more than 622 million cases and 6.54 million confirmed deaths, making it one of the deadliest in history. In this video, we will be considering the top 10 countries affected by coronavirus. 10. Russia, with 20,985,756 confirmed cases. The virus was confirmed to have spread to Russia on 31st January 2020, when 2 Chinese citizens were tested positive for the virus. Early prevention measures included restricting the China-Russia border and extensive testing. The infection spread from Italy on 2nd March, leading to additional measures such as cancelling events, closing schools, theaters and museums, as well as shortening the border and declaring a non-working period, which after 2 extensions lasted until 11th May 2020. At the end of 2020, there were nearly 3.2 million COVID-19 cases in Russia. At the end of 2021, there were nearly 10.5 million cases and nearly 310,000 deaths in the country. The country has recorded 387,269 deaths since the pandemic started. 9. Japan, with 21,266,574 confirmed cases. The Japanese government confirmed the country's first case of the disease on 16th January 2020 in a resident who had returned from Wuhan, China. The first known death was on 14th February 2020. Both were followed by a second outbreak introduced by travelers and returnees from Europe and the United States. At the end of October, the number of confirmed cases in the country crossed the 100,000 mark. And at the end of 2020, there were about 230,000 COVID-19 cases in the country. The number of confirmed cases crossed the 1 million mark on 7th August 2021. The country has recorded 44,802 deaths since the pandemic started. 8. Italy, with 22,432,803 confirmed cases. The virus was first confirmed to have spread to Italy on 31st January 2020, when 2 Chinese tourists in Rome tested positive for the virus. 1 week later, an Italian man who returned to Italy from China was hospitalized and confirmed as the 3rd case in Italy, with the first deaths recorded on 22nd February. By the beginning of March, the virus had spread to all regions of Italy. All flights to and from China were suspended and a state of emergency was declared, after which the government closed all non-essential businesses and industries and restricted movement of people. In October, Italy was hit by the second wave of the pandemic, which brought the government to introduce further restrictions on movement and social life. During the peak of the pandemic, Italy's number of active cases was one of the highest in the world. The country has recorded 177,054 deaths since the pandemic started. 7. United Kingdom, with 23,621,952 confirmed cases. The United Kingdom government and each of the 3 devolved governments introduced public health and economic measures, including new laws to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. A national lockdown was introduced on 23rd March 2020 and lifted in May, replaced with specific regional restrictions. Further nationwide restrictions were introduced later in 2020 in response to a surge in cases. Most restrictions were lifted during the Delta variant-driven 3rd wave in mid-2021. The pandemic's major impact was on the country's healthcare system, which led to long waiting lists for medical procedures and ambulances, and also led to an indirect increase in deaths from other conditions. In 2020, the disease was the leading cause of death among men and second leading cause among women. The country has recorded 189,919 deaths since the pandemic started. 6. South Korea with 24,769,101 confirmed cases. The first case in South Korea was announced on 20th January 2020. The number of confirmed cases increased on 19th February by 20, and it kept on increasing, giving a total of 346 confirmed cases on 21st February 2020. According to the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, with the sudden jump mostly attributed to a certain individual who participated in a religious gathering. The country has recorded 28,406 deaths since the pandemic started. 5. Germany, with 33,312,373 confirmed cases. Germany had its first case on 27 January 2020, and by mid-February, the arising cluster of cases had been fully contained. A carnival event on 15 February was attended by a man identified as positive. In the outbreak, which subsequently developed from infected participants, authorities were no longer able to trace the likely chains of infections. On 9th March, the first 2 deaths in Germany were reported. From 13th March, German states mandated school and kindergarten closures, postponed academic semesters, and prohibited visits to nursing homes to protect the elderly. 2 days later, borders to Austria, Denmark, France, Luxembourg, and Switzerland were closed. Germany officially entered a recession, given that its economy contracted 2.2% during the first quarter of 2020. The country has recorded 149,948 deaths since the pandemic started. 4. Brazil, with 34,706,757 confirmed cases. The virus was confirmed to have spread to Brazil on 25th February 2020, when a man who had traveled to Italy tested positive for the virus. The disease had spread to every federative unit of Brazil by 21st March. On 19th June, the country reported its 1 millionth case and nearly 49,000 reported deaths. On 27th March 2020, Brazil announced a temporary ban on foreign air travelers, and most state governors imposed quarantines to prevent the spread of the virus. The economy shrunk by an unparalleled 9.7% in the second quarter of 2020 and plunged Brazil into a recession. By the end of 2020, Brazil's GDP had shrunk by 4.1%, the worst recorded since 1990. The country has recorded 686,027 deaths since the pandemic started. 3. France, with 35,342,950 confirmed cases. The virus was confirmed to have reached France on 24th January 2020. The first 5 confirmed cases were all individuals who had recently arrived from China. A Chinese tourist who was admitted on the 28th January 2020 died 14th February 2020, making it the first COVID-19 death in France, as well as the first COVID-19 death outside Asia. From August 2020, there was an increase in the rate of infection, and on 10th October, France set a record number of new infections in a 24-hour period in Europe, with 26,896 recorded. The increase caused France to enter a second nationwide lockdown on 28 October 2020. A third national lockdown commenced on 3rd April 2021 and was mandated for all of April. Measures included the closure of non-essential shops, the suspension of school attendance, a ban on domestic travel, and a nationwide curfew from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. The country has recorded 155,078 deaths since the pandemic started. 2. India, with 44,587,307 confirmed cases. The first cases of COVID-19 in India were reported on 30th January 2020 among 3 Indian medical students who had returned from Wuhan, which led to the announcement of lockdowns all around the country. A second wave, which began in March 2021, was much more devastating than the first, with shortages of vaccines, hospital beds, oxygen cylinders, and other medical supplies in parts of the country. By late April, India led the world in new and active cases. On 30th April 2021, it became the first country to report over 400,000 new cases in a 24-hour period. The country has recorded 528,629 deaths since the pandemic started. 1. United States, with 98,166,904 confirmed cases. The COVID-19 pandemic ranks first on the list of disasters in the United States by death toll. It was the third leading cause of death in the United States in 2020, behind heart disease and cancer. State and local responses to the pandemic included the requirement to wear a face mask, prohibition and cancellation of large-scale gatherings, stay-at-home orders, and school closures. The pandemic, along with the resultant stock market crash and other impacts, led to a recession in the United States. During the second quarter of 2020, the United States economy suffered its largest drop on record, with GDP falling at an annualized rate of 32.9%. The country has recorded 1,084,282 deaths since the pandemic started. While you go about your business, do stay safe. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. Ensure you subscribe to our channel, like, share, and comment on this video. Thank you so much for watching.